Sammy from Miami, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Where did that name come from? Was that like your softball name, from what I understand?
Well, I'm originally from Miami, Florida.
Right.
So
Okay.
Sammy
Yeah.
from Miami was just like a natural way where there's a lot of other people that are named Sam, Samantha. It helped differentiate myself and then it stuck.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's what I have you on my phone as. I don't even I don't even have your last name on there. That's cool. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm super excited to have you on. Just super, I guess, briefly explain like who is Sam Card? Like what is your story?
A forever athlete who learned how to use that as a vehicle and reframe my mindset from sports being who I was to what I did. And what that's done is it's opened up an unbelievable amount of doors for me in corporate America, leaving corporate America, starting something new, being highly resilient in life. And, from that point, it was I can have all the power and success in the world by getting these titles and the raises. And then I realized, well, why don't I contribute? Why don't I do something a little bit different? So, Sam Card 5 years ago versus Sam Card, today are very much differentiated by power success and transition to contribution and fulfillment.
Hmm. Okay. So me and you, I'm trying to think. We met about 4 years ago ish,
Yeah,
like
about five.
2021, at that HPLT event. So
Yes.
yeah, what were you doing at that time? What was your current like role? What were your goals and stuff?
Well, I was still in corporate America,
Mm,
and I loved everything I was doing. I was working at Honeywell. I was working across multiple market verticals, garnering all this experience, loving what I was doing, traveling the world over 40 to 60 countries. I was living what I thought was the dream and the dream job. And then what I realized was I was missing kind of that tribe, that community of high performance individuals. So I wanted to immerse myself in something that I knew I wasn't going to be the best at because I wasn't training 8 to 10 hours a day like some of the other individuals that go to these events. And I thought, well, why not do something hard? So I did. And at that time, it was actually very pivotal because it sparked my fire to actually write the book faster.
mm.
So that was a huge pivotal moment for me and just being immersed around other people. And I know we had a couple of situations where we went to the side and just talked and connected. But yeah, that's pretty much what was going on during that time.
Yeah, had you already been writing the book when you were there? Like, had you started?
I had the idea of the book. I hadn't started writing yet. So after that event, I literally wrote that book in 5 weeks.
Wow, that's that's crazy.
Right? Because then I was
Yeah.
like, I had that urgency. I had that momentum from being around high performers. And when you're around high performers, you gap up 15%,
Hmm.
right? If
Yeah.
you're around the wrong people, which most people focus on the negative piece of it, it's because you lose more than you gain. You can go down 30%. So that's why for me, I had to immerse myself in a different environment that really got me to get back in my competitive edge in a way that I hadn't had in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that so the book you wrote, The Athlete Advantage, Success Beyond Game Day. I remember when you first released it, it was kind of like you you had me like make a video or something, kind of like a testimonial thing, and then you sent it to me. And this totally honest truth is at the time when I was reading it. So I have a really hard time like implementing like information when it doesn't make sense in the context of my life. And
Mhm.
so like when people say like, "Oh, I read like a book a week," I'm like, "How do you even apply a book a week to your life?" You know,
Mhm.
I've never
Mhm.
understood that. And because like when me, I read like a paragraph, I'm like, "Oh, I got to go implement that right now." You
Yeah.
know. And so when I was reading your book, like I know it was great information now for me now, but back then I didn't really. It didn't click for me because I was still trying to figure out like, okay, what skill sets do I need to learn right now? Versus like, and then how can I implement the,
Mhm.
that the athlete mindset, right? Um, but yeah, what was your reasoning for writing the book?
I think the biggest catalyst was I started mentoring two athletes, became hundreds of athletes across the country, and multiple athletes had mental health issues. And my mind was, well, they have an identity issue. Like that's what the real root cause is. And I said, shame on me if I hoard the knowledge of how I was able to transition and sit in my 8 seconds of not feeling so good, right? To really give me that boost to be able to repackage my experiential skills. Shame on me if I don't put that out there, right? So often we only want to give a piece of the recipe, right? Because, oh, I still want it to be my thing. I'm like, no, 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 take it, make it your own. If I can cut a 10-year cycle down for 1 to 2 years for someone, like I'm going to do that. And the way I wrote that book was you can just read chapter 1, then go to 10, go back to 3. But the thing is, we're so programmed to read 1, 2, 3, 4. So
Mm,
that's why I wrote the book with cliff notes at the end, right? Because for someone who wants to skim and figure out, well, what's more relevant to my life right now? Because not all of my experiences will resonate with every single person. But what that really was about re-identifying myself and my package as an athlete and other things, not just, putting the asset, the liability consideration around athlete. Oh, well, you're just an athlete. No, no, no. I'm more than just that. It's not that I'm more than an athlete. I'm more than just that. Right.
mm.
And that's where I really wanted to kind of put that in the book, to be able to resonate with others around identity.
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest mistake that athletes make when their playing days are over?
They're trying to overcome the mountain instead of taking the pebble out of their shoe. Right? They're trying to figure out how much they have to go after because for sports that worked. I want to go get the national championship, right? That's the big goal, right? But then when you get it, you realize, oh, you want to repeat it, right? And it's the journey. Everyone talks about the journey, but I'll go one further. It's really around the systems, the discipline,
Mm,
the ability, right? And you say this all the time, suffer on purpose, but it's less about pain. It's more around what are you learning in that process. That frustration is feedback. Well, what are you going to do with that? Where are you tolerating problems? So for me, it's systems. What are the systems that you need to go from a team of champions into a championship team that becomes a dynasty? Very different way to approach sports, very different way to approach life. It's the same concepts. It's just repackaging it in different ways.
when you say systems,
Yeah.
are you meaning like day to day systems for people to implement to become more efficient, or what are you meaning by that?
There's a couple of different ways, right? Like, first off, there is no one size fits all. If anyone says there's one way to do something, it's wrong. And one of the biggest issues I had was I had all the resources and coaching when I got into corporate America. And like, even in my sports career, right? I always had really good environments around me, or they challenged me. But it was always kind of like a one size fits all approach on,
Mhm.
well, we need to work here, we need to work there. So for me, I was like, well, someone has to be the first to really develop tools that have nimbleness, not just saying it, but really can meet others where they're at, right? Whether it's measuring emotion and mindset through a text message, whether it's custom developing their player and professional development plan, right? That really meets that person where they're at, and look holistically at where are your strengths, where are your biases, what's your natural wiring like, and really put something that's cohesive enough where you can feel you can relate to it because you're like, okay, that's why I feel like that. Okay.
Mm.
Right. Because once you get to that point, then you learn how to prepare yourself. Once you learn how to prepare yourself, that's where the confidence comes. The confidence doesn't come from all the success. It's the preparation, the systems that you put in place. Sometimes a system is doing the same thing every morning, right? For 90 days to see how you feel. Sometimes that's a system. Everyone wants to think it's some huge thing. Yeah, there are automated systems and fine, that's great. But sometimes it's just holding discipline of who are my partners. And every Tuesday, all I'm going to have conversations around is who are my partners in the way I train and the people who pour into me and who's going to set me up from a mentorship standpoint to talk about me when I'm not in that room, a champion on my behalf, right? And stay disciplined to that. And that's where the athlete mindset comes in, because we understand discipline, because we had to be that way to be a top 5%, to be a top 1.5%. So it's just repackaging that and then showing different tools that are accessible, but what do they relate to best based off of their wiring, their background, their psychological triggers. And that's what really becomes less just about efficiency, which sports, we always focus on efficiency. I focus on effectiveness. Very different things.
Yeah, what is the difference of those two? What would you say?
So think of efficient is like my role, and I have a role on the field, and I've got to go from point A to point B, right? I want to be
Mm,
efficient in how I run that route. Or my schedule. I want to be efficient in how I maximize that so it doesn't impact practice, and I give myself a shot to eat and have the nutrition. You want to be efficient with that.
mm,
Effectiveness is knowing your role and the impact in the whole. So others can elevate, others can bring up the standard collectively because of how you are, right? So leadership is more of an effectiveness conversation,
mm,
because sometimes you have to be in the back like the wolf, right? The strongest one in the wolf pack is in the back, taking care of the whole pack, right? So that's where effectiveness comes in. It's how can I do my part for the whole to make sure effectively we're all raising the bar, where we're building on the relationships and we're creating a common language, which we will not operate below that, which is culture.
So why do you think so many athletes struggle with their identity after sports, and how do you think we can fix that?
Because sports was everything that a lot of us did for a very long time. We don't know anything outside of it. We gave up summers. we didn't have the fall breaks. We didn't have the spring breaks, right? So we identified when we had something that wasn't going right, we typically would go take some reps or go do something around sports, right? It,
Yeah.
it, it was therapy for us. And it was also a way we could celebrate who we are and show the world who we are through a different lens and craft that other people can understand, because sports is the common global language. So you may not know a lot of people, but you can connect with people on that level. So it becomes your fabric and your DNA for a really long time. And then it's not until you realize, right, that it's what you did, not who you are, your values, your character, the values you stand in are who you are. And that
Mm.
gets amplified by this thing called a sports vehicle. Very different thing, right? And I think that's where people go wrong. And I did it myself, right? And when the games ended, you feel like a steep cliff. Or now athletes are starting to realize, okay, there's a lot more years outside of it than in it. Okay. I can also have brand deals. I can also have all these things. And now we're putting tools that, you and we didn't have when we were playing. Right. So it's not that there is a significant advantage, it's they have more resources around them. But on the other side of it, everything that they have is being amplified. If they walk the wrong way, if they say something because they had a bad day, it's filmed now. So they have
Mm.
different stressors that take them away from focusing on the plan and being effective, because a lot of athletes now are in survival mode, right? They're trying to figure out, sports is a big part of who they are, but at the same time, they're trying to build ecosystems of brands around them. So
Mm.
it's challenging where their real identity is. And that's why a lot of coaches get frustrated, because they're like, well, why can't you keep the main thing, right? But there's also a survival part to athletes, knowing that it too shall end, no matter, even if you play pro. So people are trying to maximize, and it's a little bit, wild west. Everyone says it, but it's because a lot of people are running with their heads cut off in a way, and they're not understanding the values they stand in. And if I had to say, what is the sole focus of my work? It's, what are the values you stand in at the front end of it? What are those intrinsic things? Because that correlates to downstream high performance. I'm not worried about the speed performance. I'm worried about you understanding who you are when you've got nothing in the tank, because that's really who you are. And if I can help you here, all these other parallel things end up having higher performance.
Yeah, so you touched on systems.
Hmm.
What's the first thing athletes should do once their athletic career is over?
Well, there's not one thing anybody should do. It's going to be different. And
Yeah.
we really created systems where everyone has, the ability to meet someone where they're at, right? So if someone, okay, I'll give you different examples, right? So if you are a football athlete
Hmm.
and you're really good from a physical skill set, and you are training to go to the NFL, and you have to train for the NFL Combine. The first thing you have to do there is very different than a football player who no longer is going to play at that next level, right?
Yeah.
And very
Yeah.
different if you're in a women's sport versus a men's sport too, right? It's because even if you're in a women's sport, could you make a full career out of it? Or do you also have to do other things in parallel? Now, it's growing and things will eventually adapt and change and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, there is no one size and one approach. And I hate to not say one thing. Obviously, mentorship, right? Putting yourself around others who are in a place where you aspire to be, that's a no brainer to do.
Mm.
You don't always have to go after the internship. Sometimes just being around the right person who's in the space gives you the same experiential skills as you would get as an intern would. The other thing you can do is do the internship if you've got the ability to leverage your sports vehicle right when you are fresh out of school. That is pedigree. Like, you should put that everywhere, because that is a badge of honor, and you shouldn't apologize for that, because the amount of what comes with the connotation of being a student athlete already differentiates you without having to say anything, right? So why
Yeah.
would you? Same thing on military. It's the same thing, right? It's like, put it up there. Don't shy away from it. Also, like, another example, I had the honor to run a workshop at the NCAA for the Native Student Athlete Summit.
Mm.
Native American student athletes, which only represent about 0.1% of the total collegiate space. And when I say
Really?
that, spiritually grounded human beings that understand a whole different level of what tradition means. My role is not to start the fire, it's to manage the heat. How do I help them operate more effectively in chaos of, right? Can they be loud about their culture? How do they get a seat at a table, right? I'm like, no, 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 I don't want you to have a seat at the table. I want you to be at the head of the table. Change your mindset, right? You deserve to be there, right? And it's just like, knowing those things is really, there's no one size all, but helping on the mindset, helping on the identity is always, in my mind, the first step, and there's different tools to do it.
Yeah. I know. I like how you said there's not like a one size fits all, because like when I got done, I feel like the maybe the mentality part I had, I just didn't know I had it, right? But the skill set was what I needed to implement. And that's something I was trying to go chase, like my passion or what makes me happy, but I didn't have like the skill to even like monetize that passion, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, what like with the whole NIL shift, what do you feel like what do you feel like, and again, I don't like saying should. It's kind of like what Alex Ramosi says. It's like nobody should do anything. You can do whatever you want. But
Mhm.
with the whole NIL shift, in your opinion, what do you feel like athletes should take advantage of right now?
Well, they're allowed to build brands. Like, why would you not? Right? Because brands will last well beyond your playing times. And it doesn't have to mean you have to become this huge millionaire, right? It's set the precedence of your brand, because you are the brand. And when you have it out there, whether you're interviewing for other roles and you're starting a company or you're working internationally, right? That can always be referenced. And that shows kind of the consistency of the values you stand in. So forget about the outcome of what starting a brand deal will do. Fine. Money could be one of them. In kind can be another, right? There's so many different mechanisms, but what an opportunity you have to be able to show you the human outside of sport, right? Because a lot of times we get lost in sport, but if you get to humanize yourself and let people understand the authentic side of you, right? And not just saying it for authentic sake, but no, genuinely controlling your narrative, why would you not do that? Right? Because if you don't control it, someone else will. So give yourself a shot, because values, I'll break this down. Values cannot be taken from you externally. Values are what you stand in. The external world cannot take that from you. Now, if you base everything on your reputation, you are one interaction away from that changing overnight. So the external world, right, can come at you. So in my mind, I want everything to be on a value conversation and lens. And that means around the people around that I have around me. That means the people I talk to. That means a podcast I'm on. It's all around this. Like, I really don't go away from identity. I don't go around values. And I focus on mindset, high performance, because what happens in between the ears, there's a lot of mental health considerations going on. I'm not a psychologist, but I know what I went through, right? And I know what mental strength is. So if I can get connected on a level where I can help you just reframe something, if I can help just nudge you a little bit and you decide to make the choice, now you've made the choice, and choice, not chance, determines destiny. So I keep it simple, and I'm not a problem solver, but I give people the space to lean in and let them fail and learn that failing is good and how to not tolerate problems.
With the identity being in your values, right? Which, and this might be a dumb question, but like, which sport or type of people, type of person have you seen does that really well or better than others? Like, would you say like certain sports do it better or certain types of people? Or what would you say?
I wouldn't say there's one sport, because there's sports that I went in thinking this will be tough. And in 1 week, they're talking about how homelessness became a negative fuel for them. And we started to work on transitioning that to positive fuel, right? And that helps with the effectiveness in chaos. Because if you go into chaos negative, you're more likely going to react, right? And sometimes you need to pause and just sit in it and see what it is. But I will say that women typically are more inclined to focus holistically, not shy away from it, because they understand they have a certain amount of time in it and they're thinking long term. And we're wired to think long term. We're wired to think, build the family, right? And create the home and, do your part. And if you can be aggressive while you're, with yourself, accountable to yourself, then there's a lot of female athletes that are like, that's great. That'll set up my family and I will do my part. So then when I'm ready to raise a family, I can be present. Right. So there's so many different things, but women know that there's a way to build that brand. But on the other side of that, I know a lot of incredible football players who they don't shy away from vulnerability. And it's because I've created a space for them to be able to be in it and sit in it and know what it is, and not always do great at it, but not always fail at it, right? And what will be, right? And I just kind of help nudge. At the end of the day, they're making all of the progress. Like, I'm not solving problems. And I feel that a lot of times male athletes, they're always told to be tough, all that kind of stuff. And I just provide an outlet for them to just be, and they can be tough. They can be like, I have no agenda. I legit just want people to win. And when an athlete feels that, they're like, okay, I can breathe for a second, right? So that's the respect that I get because of what I am providing because I wish I had that. So,
What's the number one thing you feel like the majority of athletes get wrong about transitioning from sports to work or sports to business?
that they have to have it all figured out and that everyone in the rooms they're going into knows all the things, and we put people on pedestals
Yeah.
just like fans put players on pedestals, and the players like, I'm human, right? It's the same concept, but you're just passing it forward. When you get into some of these rooms, you're like, we're all just trying to figure it out. Like, what? What am I doing? Right. And then on the other side of it, it's, I had to learn this was, the idea of just give me the room. Once I get into the room, like, I'll do what I do. And sometimes I can come off as being a bull in a china cabinet. And it's like, no, sometimes honey is the way, right? And being able to flex like you would do with your teammates. Not everyone wants their shirt grabbed and you screaming at them, right? Sometimes people shut down. So understanding kind of the psychology of people and how you have had so much experience in different teams that you played in different environments, like that is some of the biggest advantages that you have, and your ability to not always get it right and still try. And that's, to me, it's, you're going to get it wrong more than you get it right. But in sports, you literally, in softball, you can bat 300, be a Hall of Famer, but that means you fail 7 out of 10 times,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Who's the most, this might be a weird question. Who's the most financially successful person you've met who kind of shifted your idea on that?
What do you mean by that?
Like someone who was very successful that maybe they weren't like, that they were like way more humble than you thought they would be, or like way more like, I, you know.
No, I've never had a situation, and I think it's because I've been so fortunate that, like, when I walk in rooms, people, I don't know if I give off something, but it's like a respect, because I come in with respect and
Mm.
curiosity and wanting to learn and not claiming to have any preconceived notions. When I meet you, I'm meeting you, the human, based off of what you want to share with me, not other people's opinion. I don't read all of that. More often than not, I don't even know the stats. I don't know how
Mm.
much you've raised. I know about your business. I know about the things that are important to you and how you drove that business, because that's the conversation I want to have. The conversation I want to have is the underlying values and your intrinsic appetite to be able to, is this a one and done, or are you really leaving this for generations? Or because then I can learn how to effectively connect with you and also put you in the room. Like, I'm always trying to add value. And because I'm always trying to add value, others will meet me where I'm at. So normally now when I walk into different rooms with incredible human beings, either someone's pre-wired them about me, right? Getting champions on your behalf. And it's taken some time, right? To be who you say you are all the time, and know that most people wait for the shoe to drop, and you just always have to stand in your values, because the external world can't take that from you. And so once I really started to just be that, I may not be for everyone, but what I do know is if I'm meeting you, like, my phone's down, you have 100% of my attention, and that's what it is. And it will be that 100% of the time. Right. So, yeah, I've never really been, someone's more humble or not, because I never have preconceived notions of who they are beyond what they tell me.
Yeah, that's cool. That's not how I expected you to answer that question. That's cool. What, so what, like when you go into a business deal, what does that look like right now? Like with your business and implementing it into, I guess, yeah, another business.
It depends, right? There's a lot of it depends. It depends what level. Well, we typically stay within high school, collegiate, pro Olympic levels, and even some corporations. So, if a corporation wants to have better talent pipeline planning, succession planning, athletes, military, like, that's huge, right? And we have incredible reach to that demographic, right? So that conversation is very different, and it's really a big focus on culture. and pressure testing it, because a lot of times people will say they want something, but I need to know, do you have the right people in place to sustain it?
Mm,
Right? It's not just about systems, right? But there's been times we've walked away, right? Because it didn't align for where we were at and wanting to place different athletes in that pipeline just yet, because they were going through a lot of transitionary things. And the culture that they were at today, they were having a lot of change management to get it to another place. So in my
mm,
mind, sometimes you have to go slow to go fast, right? Build that relationship with them and work alongside them. And then it became a, how do we help you develop your corporate athlete culture, right? Whereas if I'm working with a high school, it depends if I'm working with the AD, right? If the AD reached out to me or the dean reached out to me, that's a very different conversation, because they're thinking holistically across their full athletic base versus a coach coming to me saying, listen, let's pilot with this. The rest of the teams want it. There's no doubt in my mind, but there's no better way to show it, be it, because you've been doing it for 3 years on the piloting scale. And coaches, a lot of times, will just reach out, because sometimes, with everything being hit with athletic administrations, especially at the collegiate level, NIL, it's not giving them an excuse, but think about, like, they've got to think about rev share, they've got to think about all these different things, compliance, all these things, and some of them have never run a business. Well, I ran a business for 10 years, like actual P&L management globally, right? So I have a different frame of reference. So sometimes you go in and you just meet that group where they're at, and you don't talk above, you don't talk below, you partner, right? And figure out, okay, let's start small. I know your budgets are tight, right? We have this tool that can also do fan engagement, which can drive a percentage to this, because we don't want to do anything at the expense of the athlete. Well, what about, the coaches? Because a lot of the coaches get left behind. Well, how do you coach a coach? So we created a coach to coach program. So we're looking at the holistic development of the athletic department, because the coach is such a pivotal person for that athlete, right? But what about the AD? The AD has pressure from the chancellor, right? So it's like, how do you help add value, right? And not just be a sales pitch, but be something that you can integrate into what they already have, or provide a turnkey solution for them to be able to have a different phased out plan, or you just go full on it because athletes are coming to you consistently and you're going back to them and saying, hey, look, this is what's going on, but I want to respect your athletic department, your player development, because we're not trying to take anybody's role. We're trying to amplify and empower their ability to execute at a higher level. And it took us 3 years to figure out how to communicate that appropriately, because can you imagine, we have
mm.
this incredible system and tool, and we're coming in to not just speak, but also workshop and to get integrated within the team cultures. It's a little intimidating, right? It's a little intimidating. So you have to understand that, and know that if a coach comes to you and you pilot with a coach, you can keep other people in the loop, and you can also let it be their idea to scale it out. Because if you can have someone get on board, even if they weren't at the front end, or maybe they were really negative at the front end, it's okay for someone who didn't believe in you to become a champion. And you should show grace, because not everybody can take on that risk. Not everyone's a first adopter. So that's where we've become really, really mindful, is we just meet people where they're at. And if someone's like, absolutely not, okay, we just pivot. We know they'll come back, right? Especially when you get this one big scale out that now everyone feels like they're late. No, you're just on time. Don't even worry about it. We've got people in place, and we'll hire alumni from those universities, from those high schools long term to implement, because there's no one better than someone who walked the exact halls.
Yeah.
So it's not just about Sam being in front of everybody. And yeah, I get asked to be in front of people, but no. How do I empower your alumni to come back and add their part well beyond just a donor check? Like, this is a way to do that. So that's what I get excited about.
Yeah. So between like high school, college,
Mm-hmm.
professional, corporate, which of those is like your biggest revenue generator?
Ooh, high school and college,
Yeah.
I would say. High school and college, because you really have to start young, right? Like a mindset and high performance and all of that. But on the corporate side, I haven't emphasized it as much because we're really trying to, and even pro is a good driver because we're getting them from college to pro too.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
like we're getting them in the transitionary stages. Like high school, I would say kind of that junior, senior going to college is probably our most effective in terms of like getting people to jump on quick. And, or if you have like a national championship team, like they're like, I get it, culture, got it, right? And then you kind of get embedded there. But the corporate side, I think it's going to be massive. It's just you can't do everything all at the same time, and you can't be everything to everyone. So we've done the piloting over the last 3 years, and now it's really around kind of that athlete, like in season and out of season models, and then also coaching the coaches and providing tools to provide or full turnkey programs.
When you say coaching the coaches, what do you mean by that? What does a program look for a coach versus like an athlete or a student?
Well, they've experienced life a little bit more, right? Some of them are former athletes and they're in their own transitionary process. Are they where they want to be? Athletics in terms of what they pay. It's some of these athletes are making more than some of these administrators, right? I
That's
mean,
crazy.
think
Yeah,
about
that's
so,
crazy.
but that's a real psyche killer, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
really is because you feel handcuffed because, well, you're in sports, you should be grateful. Like, oh, I'm in the SEC or oh, I'm in the ACC or I'm in the Big Ten. Like, I can't complain because there's 20 million people behind me that want this role. So then you have that like fear,
mhm,
right, of saying too much or asking for too much, but they're also asking 16, 18 hours of you, sometimes, 20 hours in season for certain things and
yeah.
stuff like that. So when we say coach the coaches, it's okay. There's some programming like actual like the psychology of money that would be great for them, right? So how do you take what you have and amplify that ability? Like that's a no-brainer and it's just on a more elevated kind of level.
Hmm.
Easy. But when we're saying coach the coaches, sometimes if you can make someone's role easier for them to lean in to be able to take it to another level and add value in such a way to them that they can see it, be it, comprehend it, it makes their life easier to want to take on other things and feel the fear and do it anyway. So for example, if I can help a coach understand the culture map of a whole team and what coaches the same assessment that the athletes take, the coaches take for to map them individually as well and really focus on a corporate athlete professional development. Like where are their areas of mastery strengths where we want to continue to sharpen that iron, but hey, where are the areas we can go from good to great? And that good to great is going to be a critical piece for your team to buy in, right? And how can I help you communicate and flex? And what coaching staff is kind of more aligned with the ability to connect faster with certain players? Or how do you help a coach manage a team that has a lot of ego, but when they get on the court, it's like they're glue? Like, how do you manage that off the court stuff?
Mm.
So if we can provide a lens for their custom approach and how they can optimize their effectiveness in coaching, now coaches, can lean into the art of coaching instead of resist it and just want all these skill players. Mike Tomlin said it all the time. He's like, I don't resist the art of coaching. Like, when I get a scouting report, I don't need to know about the routes they ran. Like I can watch film. Like I obviously know about that player, right? And their ability to be efficient and all those things and their athleticism. No, I want to know about their character. I want to know about like what are they going to do when they've got nothing in the tank? Like how are they going to be on the sideline? What are they going to be in the locker room? Who's that guy that's going to bring five guys back, right? Versus being late on curfew. Like, I want to know that. And that's real coaching because that's where you can really kind of amplify to more of a dynasty culture.
Okay, so you would say that, yeah, I guess that makes, I've never thought of it that way. So the coaching you would more try to implement is coaching more like behavior, leadership skills versus like skill, like sports skills, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm
Like
not, I
mindset,
don't
leadership.
need Yeah, I don't need to be the physical skill, right? Like, so I'll give you an example. A lot of the guys that are transitioning from the collegiate football space to the NFL, I work with one of the top speed groups in the country. He's the artist of speed.
Hmm.
Like XPE, Matt and Tony Villani, Matt Gates and Tony Villani are the best of the best. So I align with the best of the best. And when those guys come in, they know the standard is the standard. There's not all these little picture spots to go take stuff. You know, when you come into this building, it is what it is. So they know when they come and meet with me, it's game time. And if you don't want to do it, all good. I'm gonna sleep just as good tomorrow. So I don't baby anybody. Everything's opt in. And they, a lot of these, coaches, they're like, no, you got to make this mandatory because they're so used to, right? Think, let me put pizza out there so the athletes can come. I'm like, no, absolutely not. Either you want to be in this or you don't. And I'm that confident in it that I'm like, we'll only charge you for who show up. And our conversion rate's crazy, like over 85, 90%.
So how do you get people to show up then? Like, what is it just that they just believe in it? They believe in the message? This is something that really struggle with is like because like for a while I was doing, like personal training and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like it because of that. Because I'm like, well, like you don't want to be here, Like with certain guys, like you can just tell. But how do you maybe it's just the confidence that you just because it works, obviously, right? The systems work. But yeah, what differentiates that?
It's okay to fire customers,
Yeah.
right? We're taught complete opposite, like try to make it work. If someone is not ready to make the choice, you can't do
Yeah.
it for them. It's just like in a personal relationship. If someone's not ready, you can't make that happen, right?
So
So
just
in
more of an abundance mindset, probably you'd say.
yeah, and also have respect and value for your time and your craft. Because if I value my craft and I don't care if there's 5 people or 10,000 people, that sets a tone. That's well beyond reputation. That's values, no matter what. External world can't take that from me, right? If you're building, a lot of people build relationships off of reputation. Well, I have such a good reputation, right? And
Yeah.
it's like it's a normal way to think about, right? And that happens through others talking on your behalf and other people interviewing you, the individual, and that's effective too, right? But if I want to be foolproof in how I show up and people are like, I don't know who she is, but I just feel like she's in this building. So since she's in this building, I'm not going to mess up. I don't ever really say names. I don't need to. And what I do is some of the others that have walked the same halls and have been in this, like at XPE, people think, how, Sam, like, no disrespect, but like, you're a blonde hair, blue eyed chick that's never played a down of football. Like, how are you effective with football players? Like, straight away. And I welcome that kind of stuff, right? And they think I do it all myself. No, you get other Hall of Famers that are now Hall of Famers that once were not Hall of Famers that went through the same process they did, right? See me come in every year, be consistent, and they see these guys like come from the session and they're like talking about as they're warming up, like, oh yeah, I'm diplomatic. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about Mike Tomlin being like that. Or, oh, okay, I can flex. Like that's application of knowledge. That's comprehension, right? Or having, them understand that you can put a man in front of a room, in front of his peers, and just put a bunch of areas he's failed and he has to explain it because guess what? The scouts do that. So if I could put you in the environment of that position, now you are prepared to be able to articulate and be able to reframe a negative connotation into how you learned, how you have comprehended and applied that, right? So sometimes it's helping see that bridge and you get those Hall of Famers at the front like, look, I'm just telling you, you got to listen to her. I wish I would have listened to her faster. I didn't, but I'm lucky because, when I was ready, I did come back. And then you have like the coaches that go up and they're like, let me tell you something. She helped me on my business.
Mm.
right? And then these guys are just like, oh my God, like Tony Villani, he did stuff with Travis Kelsey. He's done stuff with the Pouncey brothers. He's done stuff with Hancom Bolden. Like, he's done stuff that I want to be around. Like, I know he does what he says he does. And I know he makes people faster. I know I'm going to look good at the combine. And I come in there and say the combine is just, it's just one little interview of a multitude of interviews, and your most important one is not being filmed. It's when you're walking off. It's when that coach or that scout is randomly and casually walking by you, and just all of a sudden, how do I help a man take 5 minutes and get 30 minutes? That's what I do.
Mm.
I teach that, the art of intentionality, because you know the values you stand in and you're prepared. You're prepared, you're confident. So it doesn't matter when someone gets you, even if it's not convenient, because you have to be who you say you are. So in my mind, when I walk in with that confidence because I'm prepared. This last combine season, I'll give you a really good example, because there's this aspect that also helps. It was the time that it was snowing in Florida, Alabama, right? It snowed
When was that?
No, it happened this year.
Oh wow, I had no idea.
Yeah. It was like a polar, I don't know what you call it, but it was during the combine process, right? It didn't snow in South Florida. Well, I'm talking about like the Panhandle, North Florida,
Oh, okay.
snowed in like Fairhope and whatnot. So I was in Alabama and I had a flight out to go to do the training that I was doing that week. Well, all the flights were canceled. And so I got in the car and then I drove. Initially, I was flying out of Mobile. That got canceled. I was supposed to go out of Pensacola. That got canceled. Then Tallahassee came. That got canceled. So I'm at Tallahassee, which is now about 3 hours, from 3.5 hours to where I needed to go. But then to go back home, and then another 4 hours or 4.5 hours to get to Fort Lauderdale or something. So I'm like, you know what? Shame on me if I don't drive it. Even if I only have 2 hours with the guys, if I do that, they're going to know I am who I say I am.
Mm.
Because rain or snow or shine, right? Like, people say it, but like, do you do it when it's not convenient? Was it really, I was driving around the clock, right? It was not easy. And like, Tony was checking in on me, like, are you sure? Like, this is crazy. Like, it's not a big deal. I was like, no, it is a big deal. Because if I show up, they have no excuse ever again. Right.
Yeah.
And I literally told them the story and they were all like, oh my God, you're a G. Like, but sometimes it's that. Sometimes that 10% of the guys that are like kind of on the fence, but they still show up. Right. That's when you know it's like, I did this at Georgia. I don't need this development stuff. And next thing you know, they're like dapping me up, like, all right, Sam, I get it a little bit. And like, they don't want to. But I don't care. I don't care if you use the tools, you don't use the tools. I don't care if you're just in the space of, like, that's effective to me. Meet people where they're at.
Yeah. No, I love that. Sorry, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, but so when you were talking about getting into these rooms, implementing these guys showing up, so is that kind of like you get someone who's like a where were you said XPE?
Mm-hmm.
That you said. So like you'll get someone who's kind of more well known to kind of do an intro for you. Is that something you do?
Sometimes like Tony will set the stage, but it's casual. This is not like everyone sits down.
This
and
is not
Tony,
like PowerPoint. This is Sam Card.
No.
It's
And
just
that's
like
what I love about it. You want to know why? Because he expects me to do my role and do my part. Just like he expects them, and just like he expects himself to do his part, right? And he is so confident in what we've got. And I'll tell you what was so amazing to me is like Tony, like I had the vision before it was built out, and Tony was like, there's no way you're gonna do all that, but like I want to see it. Like, if anyone could do it, Sam, it's you. And he's seen this thing grow, and he's just like, holy smokes, like so he is such a big proponent because he understands the importance of what I've learned and what I'm continually amplifying, right? And Matt Gates is also there. He's probably one of the smartest people, him and Tony, right? And I love Matt because Matt is so direct. You know where you sit. There is no fluff. And that's what I love about him, because he has his craft. He knows what is the expectation. The standard is the standard. Like, and he amps it up, and he's competitive, and he's just all in. And you know what? He had to make sure I was who I said I was, right? Tony vouched for me, and that was fantastic. But you know what? Matt made his own opinion, and he wanted to see how I showed up. That's what I loved about him. He allowed me to show him who I am. And this last year, he put a note out that was like, he put a tweet out that was just like, 40 is king, and we've got that on lock, and interview is queen, and we've got that on lock. So to me, when I'm doing an NFL readiness on communication and mindset, and you have someone of his caliber say that, like, that means something. And then a lot of people are following them. So then they reach out, right? So then this organically grows, where I don't have, you're doing it when you don't have to introduce yourself in a room.
Yeah.
Other people will do it on your behalf. And that's what I've always aspired, right? To just do your part, add your value where others are excited to be in your presence just as much as you're excited to be in theirs. And there's a mutual respect and honor there that is all rooted in integrity.
So those initial connections that you have made with those guys, how have you managed to do that? Like, what would be your advice for people that are trying to expand their network in that way for those initial connections?
You never know what an intro will lead to, but you're 6 introductions away from meeting anyone in the world. And that really is true, because I've lived it, right? And what does that actually mean? Well, I met Tony through an email.
Like a cold email or what?
So I believe Vincent Maselli introed Tony after HPLT.
Okay.
Right? So that then became, well, I showed up and, actually it was a phone call. And then Tony's like, oh man, she's pretty cool. And then I drove down there. I drove down there. So like the same thing, I'll give you an example of when I was transitioning. When I went and got my MBA, there weren't a lot of athletes that were going to get their MBA. I graduated on a Friday. I started working on Monday for Honeywell International. They wanted someone that was already based in New Jersey. Okay. Because they didn't want to pay for relocation. They didn't want to do any of that. You know what I did? I packed everything in my Mustang. Okay. And I literally drove out there and had the interview. And I stayed in some like basement lake house, like Airbnb at the time, which I don't even know, to be honest.
This was for Honeywell?
Yeah. But you see what I'm saying? It's like, I know I can control how I show up. So sometimes it's make the drive, put the face, to a name, right? Like know that relationships unfold the way they're supposed to unfold. And you have to be who you say you are, even when it's not convenient, right? So there was a lot of times, like, I just wanted to see Tony and XPE and Shredmill win. It had nothing to do about Success Beyond Game Day getting incorporated in his programming. He just allowed me in the space, and all I wanted to do is pour value because I just believed in him, and I didn't expect anything in return. And he's so used to people wanting things, right? So can you imagine someone who's going in that's just adding value, adding value, adding value? So when you want to get in certain rooms, right, add value, because that one conversation has now opened up an opportunity to talk to the Mizzous of the world, the Alabamas of the world, the Auburns of the world, right? And yeah, I could have gotten there in different pathways, but just know and have respect for creating a shared language and relationship that sometimes you have to nurture it for 3 years. Like, we've been doing this for a long time. And most people take 5 years for something really to take off, and we're doing it in 3. Like, how cool is that? I'm not walking around saying I am who I'm not.
No, that is really cool. I know. I used to think like the HPLT, like the retreats like that. I used to think they were kind of like fluff and whatever. I can't tell you how many like connections I made just from those 4 days. It's crazy. I'm having Richie on in a couple weeks.
Oh, nice. He's the best.
So it's just insane. Like, it just expanded my mind so much to like all these different avenues that you can take and all these different people that are just so fascinating to me. And that's really why I do the podcast, to like talk to people like you, and just like, it's just fascinating to me. But Okay. Last question. If you were in a room of 100 athletes and you could only give them one piece of advice to reflect on, what would it be?
Fail forward fast. Straight away. Know where you're falling. Sit in it. Don't resist the art of failing. Just learn how to do it fast. Right? The people that are the most successful, it's not that they don't fail, but they just learn how to fail fast and get into the room. And what's great about that is athletes understand resiliency, but it's not just about resiliency, and that's where sometimes we get lost. It's about the fact that we can go into a weight room on max day, drop a bar, look like our ego is shot, and still go at it the next day and with the same amount of optimism. So it's optimistic resiliency of failing forward fast, right? Because it doesn't matter if it's your thousands lost or your 1,000th rep or whatever. It needs to be just as high energy as your first rep. So there you go.
Heck yeah. Sammy from Miami. Thanks for coming on. What's up, guys? If you watched that whole thing, you are amazing. Thank you so much. If you liked it, you got some value from it, please like and subscribe and share this message so that we can get the podcast growing. I truly appreciate you. Stay tuned for the next one. Peace.